the Left Coast Live. I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, joined as always by my co-host, Stateless Patriot. We are both in California, very different parts of California, but nonetheless mutually uncomfortable with the state of free amendment, First Amendment rights in this country being the target of so many baby boomer pundits and on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, whether it's liberal or conservative, it's just like it's always the boomers that seem the most out of touch, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't know why. We can get it. I didn't mean to get right into it, but it's just been on my mind. What is going on with you lately? How have the last few days been? I got no viewers on my end, so we can talk about whatever you want first.
Oh yeah, no. Really, really busy. Like even though I had free time over the weekend to devote to creative endeavors, because I wanted to focus on this channel and other stuff, but like I was just preoccupied with chores. Did a little bit of shopping. Ended up having like spend a couple hours just figuring out how to replace the damn toilet seat in my bathroom. So that was fun and gross. Um, and then yesterday I ended up working like a full shift at my pizza delivery job, and it was fruitful, but it did take up like a big chunk of my day. So there's a lot of stuff I wanted to get to that I just couldn't get done, unfortunately. But you know, it's whatever. You know. On top of that, following the Kendrick and Drake beef that's been going on has been very, very, very fascinating. But,
Yeah, you're gonna have to get me caught up on that.
Sure.
Because I don't know anything about it because I just really don't care.
Of course.
But definitely fill me in on that. I will say I had a wonderful conversation with the Humanist Report's Mike Figueredo on Friday afternoon.
That's right.
He's a very smart guy. He does his not just in terms of his political views, but also just the way he runs his channel. He's
Big
a total
time.
pro.
Yeah.
And makes himself available to his audience. And he's just so kind. He's
Yes.
just so kind. Like, I mean, I know he gets a little pissed off on his show sometimes and shows
Rightfully
like that.
so.
Yeah, raw emotion, because, we've talked about it on here. I'm going to say it a million times. Anger is a completely natural reaction to injustice, unfairness, inequality, something being wrong. It's a
Exactly.
completely natural reaction. It's what you do with the anger. Do you let it control you, or do you control it and make it useful? That's why people go and work
Yep.
out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Mike's a really kind guy. He's kind of my guy that I want to pitch this aggro, unapologetically aggro brand of left-wing politics where we call the bullies bullies, where we call the trash trash, where we don't stop reminding people that actually we should listen to the people who are what society up until a couple years ago would label as experts.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we need to reclaim. And I mean, I just don't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anybody out there who think the left is doing a good enough job of absolutely pummeling the right
Yeah.
is just not paying attention. I mean, right now is the time to beat the Republican Party into submission, and maybe they will.
Yes.
Maybe they've got some real genius stuff planned for after July 4th. Maybe they've got some. We'll see, but they usually don't. They usually just do the bare minimum. I mean, isn't that kind of the story of the party? Is just the bare minimum?
No kidding. It's same old story. Honestly, it's always been that way. Yeah. I mean, the more people were able to reach out to that, like the better, because, like even. I'm really glad you got a chance to talk to him. I hope were able to dive into it a bit more, because I really wouldn't have as big of a following that I do on this channel if it wasn't for him. I think gaslighting me. I don't know the proper term, but he gave me like a spot on his channel for a little bit of promotion, and I'm really, really grateful for that. Like it's really cool that he did that.
Yeah, I'd love to have enough followers to have members and do all that stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that YouTube is a tough place, man. It's a tough business.
Yeah.
It's a tough racket. It's not
Yeah.
for the faint of heart. Gotta
Yeah.
stay with it.
Yeah. There's
Yeah, just like now, I had a viewer for a hot second, and then he or she just left,
right.
and now I have no viewers. How many viewers do you have right now?
Looks like I got one. But
There we go. Nice.
yeah, I mean, really, I mean, I've thought about like considering just buying ads or like just doing like a little bit of promotion. At some point, like getting like a channel intro or something like that together for the stream for the actual show. And hopefully, like tonight, like I'll have some. Well, I mean, this week I'll have stuff lined up and ready to pump out into the channel. That's not like live stream content, like actual like clips and whatnot. As well as getting together like the actual logo that we sort of kind of figured out. It's just all on the docket. It's just like putting time aside for it and actually like committing to it. You know.
Yeah. I'm just checking on my. Okay. Well, I don't know if I'm using Wi-Fi or Ethernet right now. I'm plugged into Ethernet, I think. No, I'm not. So I'm a lot plugging in on Ethernet now.
Change that. Real
Anyway,
quick.
what are you talking about with this? Have you? Oh, good. Yeah, that should probably be better. That'll be a better connection on my end, I think.
Yeah, I think that fixed it.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. So, talk to me about. Have you watched any mainstream media coverage? I am getting to the point where even like YouTube is so saturated with Israel, Gaza, and now the college protests
Yeah.
that I don't really want to watch. I'm getting kind of like dejected. I'm very close to just bailing on news and like taking a week off and just not watching the news.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why.
I'm not going to, but I
No,
fantasize about it. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, like just like the fact that like a lot of channels are devoting a lot of time to these things is because like yeah, it's the most pressing issue in the country right now. Like I would say without a doubt, like it's um you know history rhymes and like what we're seeing is like just echoes of the anti-war protests in the late 60s, early 70s when it came to Vietnam.
Yeah, it's Vietnam all over again.
Yeah, no kidding. So like it's easy to look at that and keep people updated and whatnot, but at the same time, there's all sorts of other things going on in the world as well. So it's easy to become locked in and wrapped up in like one or two issues, rather than like broaden your scope of things. Like I think like adding variety is really really important. I think mainstream media actually does that really well. They set time aside for this and that, and of course you have different shows that touch on the same topics and whatnot. The only mainstream media I would say like I actually even really consume is like when I go to the gym, they'll have MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News up on the TVs in front of the treadmills and whatnot, and the ellipticals and stairmasters and all that. Uh, and as well as local news, like local stories and whatnot, whatever they'll be running. Most of what I see in the morning, because I
Yeah,
go,
my wife loves local news.
yeah, like I don't blame her. Like it's they're always succinct and to the point. Like when it comes to what you want to know and whatnot, and there's not really much of a spin on it as there are on like cable national networks and whatnot. But when I go to the gym, like it's usually between like 6 or 7 in the morning, and uh, what I see them usually covering is like Trump trial stuff mostly. There was
Yeah.
that bridge collapse that was breaking at the time. I remember seeing that getting covered, but yeah,
Baltimore.
yeah. There, but lately, of course, it's just like a whole lot more of the Trump cases and like the Supreme Court hearings on the arguments from the Trump lawyers and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's basically the extent of it. It's understandable. Like they're like it's that's the mainstream media has always been that way when it comes to Trump. Like uh, near obsessive coverage.
Well, he's a ratings booster, man. It's just like it's
That's it.
a matter of what drives advertising revenue. The
Yeah.
whole industry of media, both scripted and unscripted, is kind of driven by fear. Where, and by that I mean they're afraid that the audience is going to change the channel or pick up their phone or start their day.
Yeah.
And so they want to keep you hooked with like the what the algorithm tells them their audience wants to hear mostly about. I mean, MSNBC is obviously for baby boomer liberals. Like it's just
Yeah.
obvious. CNN is also kind of for baby boomer liberals. I don't watch enough of CNN to really know what their flavor is anymore. I know they keep trying to make it work with some conservative with the anti-Trump conservatives, but it
Yeah.
like just doesn't work.
From what I've noticed of them lately is like um, they had that issue of being like too right in their coverage. I guess you could say too conservative, but in like recent months, they're actually covering things a bit more fairly. Like they'll actually like get things right. Instead of like have like a conservative spin on it or like try to appeal to the conservative spin. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're still very corporate and they still don't like go like they don't dive deep into um, uh, certain issues like Gaza and like why it is this way. But they do a better job than the MSNBC. I've been noticing. I mean, there's at least that.
I just don't like that chick Caitlin Williams is just kind of a robot. But that's what's anyway. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mainstream media is what it is. I just
of
think that
course.
the way that they're going after protesters, and it's like how many on the MSNBC audience, how many of those people like either were protesters themselves or knew protesters of the Vietnam War and like didn't
Right.
listen to them, and then and in hindsight are like, well, I probably should have listened to the war protesters because
Oh
they
my
turned out to be
god.
right.
Yeah, no
So this
kidding.
idea that these guys are like just kids who don't know anything, it's like maybe they're paying attention to the issue more than you are because you're just using a superficial level of analysis, and these guys and girls have the time to go out and research what's really going on, not just, watch Morning Joe for 3 minutes in the morning before work.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like it, the people that watch these things. It's like they're probably reminded of when like they they went to school in the 60s and 70s and saw these protests themselves, and like I'm sure a lot of them can agree, like especially the ones who watch CNN or MSNBC can agree that like those protests were justified. Like history, um,
Yeah,
uh,
prove them right.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, do they look at these protests and do they see themselves? Do they see the same things that they went through back then, or like are like are their audiences just not quite in that age bracket? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty, but like they're they have to at least see through the dishonest framing of these protests by these pundits, especially like Morning Joe. Like when we saw that coverage, that like that was just purely disgusting.
I think that the country has come a long way with homophobia. I
Yeah,
think the country has a long way to go, but has still come a long way with respect to race relations, and still has a long way to go with xenophobia. But the one that is probably always going to be really tough is Islamophobia. And
yeah,
everybody that I talk to, who I shouldn't say talk to, but have kind of heard from, who's still pro-Israel, and by pro-Israel I mean pro-Israel government, like at least not understanding that the nexus of this problem is Netanyahu. and that
Yeah.
until he is removed, there is no solution to be had, because this war is keeping him in office and keeping him in power, and
Yeah, not to
there's that
mention
saying about
yeah,
power. So
yeah, not to mention the Western powers that continue to enable him and his dealings. Like
yeah,
they're going forward with the Rafa
I just think he's
offensive right
taking care.
now.
I think he's taking advantage of Biden's age. Like, I think he's taking advantage of
Yeah,
the weakness of the U.S. government that isn't bought and paid for by Israel, because AIPAC is so powerful. I mean, I think so. I don't know if this is true. I have to check this, but I think after the NRA, the AIPAC is the biggest pack.
yeah,
I'm not sure, but
I believe
I
you're
think
correct.
that's right
Yeah, no,
in
without
terms
a
of
doubt.
dollars. In terms
Yeah,
of dollars.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, no. James says, yeah, everyone's afraid to state the truth. The Balfour Declaration is all you need to know, but everybody's afraid of Britain. Like, yeah, they like Great Britain has a huge role, like in Israel as well. Like they literally like the declaration in 1917 to create a Jewish state. Like yeah, they like they're a huge reason why the whole region is just so fucked up right now, and it continued to like I said, the West continues to enable it.
Yeah, I mean, the only other people I'm trying to think of other people who have such an attachment to their homeland. I don't even want to make those comparisons because I'm not cognizant enough to provide any level of insight.
Right.
It's just the sheer quantity of power versus the percentage of the population is staggering. It's unlike
Yeah.
any minority group in the entire world.
Yeah.
Do you
Exactly.
know the 3-2s for Jews rule?
The three what?
The 3-2s for Jews?
No.
So it's 0.2% of the world's population is Jewish. 2% of America's population is Jewish. And 20% of Nobel Prize winners are Jewish.
Wow. I had not. Wow. I had not actually know
Yeah.
that. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. It's too bad no one's watching on my channel because that's pretty insightful.
Right. Yeah. No.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about, honestly. Um. Yeah. Like there's the Rafa offensive that's going on right now. Like there's a lot of reporting that like bombs are being dropped, and like they're like being asked to evacuate, and like where to, like all of Israel is, like all of Gaza is rubble right now. So it's just more hell on earth. It's more just psychotic chaos. Honestly, I'm so jaded by it at this point, but it's crazy how this has gone on for 7 months now, and there's still no off ramp, no feasible like actual plan. Like Hamas just came out and like accepted the ceasefire deal while Israel rejected it, and so it's, yeah, like great progress being made, I suppose.
All right. So we want to check out our favorite morning show.
Oh, do we
Well,
have
we
to?
we had Jay Johnson
It's a
here,
nice short piece, and it
he
gives
was
us good
talking
material.
about
Mhm.
Colombia making some tough decisions and having to balance a lot of different interests. It sounds like Colombia has come up with a compromise for graduation.
Well, this morning we've been following these developments on college campuses across the country after weeks
I
of
heard about
protests
this.
over the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. It's really impacted commencement ceremonies and graduations for a number of places. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton, who has the latest on the plans, as Joe mentioned, at Columbia University. Antonia, what decision did they come up with?
Morning, Mika. Well, Columbia has just announced minutes ago that they're going to cancel their main stage graduation, similar in fashion to what USC has decided to do. And instead, they're going to focus on individual school level ceremonies and class days. This means that the power and the real propulsion behind the celebrations around graduation are going to be in the hands of school administrators and the students themselves. This comes after days of debate, and NBC News was the first to report last week that these conversations were in motion. School officials told us that they were concerned about security, and student government leaders who were meeting with school officials to plan all this told us that they were concerned about President Manu Shafiq, Colombia's president, speaking to the crowd in that classic ceremony, that could create quite a difficult situation. Students could be upset. There could be protests that would disrupt the day for students and families. And so this has been in the works now for a while. They are urging families, that they are still going to be able to be part of celebrations on campus. They don't have to change their travel plans, but certainly this is going to cause some upset today, guys.
Interesting.
So what you're saying is, like, for instance, and this seems like a good compromise to me. You're talking about, like, for instance, engineering school will have their own ceremonies, political
will
science
the
school,
students be able to walk the
arts and
stage and
science
receive their
schools.
diploma?
Yeah, they'll still get recognition. I mean, like, for instance, when I graduated from law school, it was a smaller ceremony, but it was 200 students. It was the parents, and it was smaller, but it was still special. So is that what we're talking about here?
That's exactly what we're talking about. Students are still going to get to wear all of the graduation garb. They're going to walk across the stage. They're going to get their diplomas in their hands, and they're going to be interacting with deans and school leaders with whom they're already very familiar. They're just not going to have that large crowd, single commencement celebration. And Columbia had originally planned to have one in the morning and one in the evening. President Manu Shafiq would, of course, have been addressing all of the students, not just at the undergraduate level, but graduate schools as well. And so,
all it really comes down to is, like, I don't think the president of Columbia University wants to come face to face with these students because
Protesters,
like,
yeah.
like I mean, not to mention, like, how are you even supposed to have a commencement speech if like or like even a ceremony if this is all still going on and, like, Columbia is not abiding by the wishes of the protesters and divesting from Israel. Like, you would think,
But they're not going to divest. There's just no way they're going to divest. So they were always going to find a workaround.
Right.
You knew they were never going to. They're never going to divest.
Mm-hmm.
There's too much. The money wins, man. The money's going to win the long run because they're just going to fight. What are they going to do? Like, the summer's going to come. They're going to protest all the way to 4th of July. Like, no way.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's like graduation is just around the corner. So, like, all these colleges are just holding out for as long as they can without actually fucking doing anything. And meanwhile, they get to crack some student skulls in the process. And, status quo goes on. It's fucking gross. I mean, fortunately, there are, like, a few instances here and there of protesters achieving victory and actually, like, meeting their goals and getting what they want. But, like, the examples are few and far between, as far as I know at this point. I could be wrong. I haven't been following it as closely, even though, like, this is, like, one of the biggest things that left YouTube is covering the most, I suppose.
All right, so take a look at this, because this is the outside agitators thing that the right keeps coming up with, and whatever. You've got to deal with this.
As pro-Palestinian and anti-war protests spread to college campuses across the country, there was one phrase that kept popping up.
Outside agitators. Outside agitators.
Those outside agitators.
Them as outside agitators.
Outside agitators.
outside agitators.
Outside agitators.
Paid outside agitators.
Outside agitators.
In recent days, university administrators, law enforcement officials, politicians have all trotted out that familiar trope, the so-called outside agitator, accusing professional organizers or nefarious foreign actors of hijacking student-led protests and encouraging its participants to adopt more aggressive and violent tactics.
Yep.
Just yesterday, a bipartisan duo consisting of Congressman Republican Mike Lawler and Democrat Josh Gottheimer called on the FBI to investigate those supposed shadowy figures. A similar sentiment was shared online by the NYPD Chief of Patrol, who accused a, quote, unknown entity of radicalizing our vulnerable students.
It couldn't be that the students are just pissed off.
No.
It couldn't be that the students are just pissed off.
That's silly.
It has to be outside. There has to be an explanation. Yeah. And notice how there's the turn towards the observer where it's like, I have this. The more dramatic interpretation wins, right, with these people. The more dramatic story, and this variable of outside agitators is very conspiratorial.
It really
and
is.
By extension, narcissistic.
They can't fathom the fact that this is all organic, that this is all from the bottom up, so they have to try to dismiss it as some sort of conspiracy. Like the chief of patrol here says, follow the money. Okay, good fucking luck. Like, seriously.
Yeah, follow the money, and that's why the protesters aren't getting what they want.
Yeah, exactly. Like, holy shit.
Of their young minds. He urged his federal partners to, quote,
I love this too, like this idea of childhood, how the college students can't, like, think for themselves. I mean, or just are just idiots.
Yeah.
I mean, the lack of respect this country has for the youth is just like, I mean,
No kidding.
you know, I was thinking I mean, 2021. Yeah, you're not an adult yet, but in terms of understanding the socioeconomics of globalism,
Yeah.
you could have that pinned down by the time you're 20, 21.
Yeah, give them credit.
Now, we should be clear here. Some of the hundreds of people arrested at campuses across the country over the last few weeks have not been students, including at Columbia University, where city officials say 29% of those arrested last week had no connection to the school. But as the New York Times reports, there's little evidence that those so-called outsiders had any role in organizing or escalating the protests. In fact, many were arrested without ever having set foot on campus. And according to a review of police documents, only a small handful of the nearly 36 arrestees lacked ties to the university had also participated in other protests around the country. Quite a blow to this professional protester narrative that is being pushed around by law enforcement. The Times examination also revealed that far more of the unaffiliated protesters had no such histories. Instead, those demonstrators said they arrived at Columbia in response to social media posts or word-of-mouth invites. And that includes Matthew Cavaletto, a 52-year-old computer programmer who's lived within a half a mile of Columbia University for most of his life. Cavaletto was arrested on the street outside the school after he stood in the middle of the intersection and refused to budge. The native New Yorker dismissed the notion that nefarious outside actors were pulling the strings, describing his fellow non-student protesters to the Times as, quote, members of the community, folks from the city, folks from our neighborhood, not some kind of foreign element that had snuck in to sap our city's vitality. Yeah. One Barnard College student explained to NBC News why she thought officials were pushing this outsiders trope. Quote, I really struggle a lot with the whole narrative of outside agitators because I see it as a means through which to justify violence. And to claim that because individuals are not students, they are deserving of police brutality.
Yeah,
blaming unnamed outside actors also accomplishes another goal. Distracting from the protesters' primary aim, which is to bring attention to the war in Gaza. We should call out this boogeyman narrative for what it really is, an effort to discredit, delegitimize, and marginalize an entire movement. And honestly, it isn't anything new in this country. This same outside agitator trope was frequently evoked during the civil rights movement, used to imply that protesters were driven by the sinister agendas of unknown shadowy figures, as opposed to being motivated by their own personal beliefs and concerns. Even civil rights giant Martin Luther King Jr. was labeled as an outside actor.
It's pathetic how easy the historical comparisons are.
Yeah.
It's pathetic that
the
baby boomer generation that went through the 1960s like hasn't grown up at all. Like, this is the same shit, you idiots.
Yeah.
This is the same garbage where what you're being fed through.
Yeah.
Agitator, since he was often called in to assist with demonstrations across the South. Not only did King reject that label, he also rejected the very idea of outside agitators. As he famously wrote in a letter from a Birmingham jail, quote, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Never again can we afford to live with a narrow provincial outside agitator idea. Anyone who lives inside the United States can never be considered an outsider anywhere within its bounds.
That's a good point.
All right. Yeah, he's good.
Seriously.
James Fox, thank you very much for your comments so far, my man. I really appreciate it. And Chris Kidder was watching for at least a little while. He's my stand-up comedy buddy. He's got a living and thriving YouTube channel himself. So please check out Chris Kidder on YouTube if you're looking for some good comedy. Propaganda. Oh, here we go. Here comes James Fox again. Propaganda that has been used since prior to the Roman Empire. Yeah. Oh, nice. Chris Kidder's still here. What's up, dude? How are you, man? Dude, Chris, do you want to come on? Do you want to come on, Chris? Let me see if I can text him.
Yeah. It says a lot, though. Like, you're going against the status quo. You're going against what the deciders have decided. You're going to be silenced. You're going to be oppressed. You're going to be... you're going to get cracked down on.
Oh, he can't make it. Animating and listening to you guys. What a nice guy. Yeah, he's Chris is a busy guy. Chris, yeah, he's doing a lot of cool stuff in entertainment.
Thanks for listening to us. I mean, I would agree we make good background noise. I actually have to re-listen to these sometimes in order to timestamp clips and whatnot, and like it's actually good to hear back on the conversations we had because they seem to flow really well, and I tend to agree with what we say. Like obviously,
Yeah, I mean, we don't agree on everything. I'm still
Sure.
kind of coming out of certain positions. I mean, I've always been proud to admit that I'm wrong or don't know something. I don't have an
Right.
opinion on
Same here.
everything, right? I'm big on
Yeah.
the Socratic understanding of wisdom, right? I am the wisest man alive because I know that I know nothing. Hence, experts. Thank you,
Yep.
Socrates.
Yep.
I mean, I really believe like there's just based on my education, I could come up with a curriculum. I couldn't do the sciences, obviously, whatever, but English too. But history, Western Civ. There should be just basics: understanding the ancient Greeks, understanding Nietzsche, understanding the German philosophers, studying Marxism. All these various forms of society. They need to be taught earlier on, and in our education system, and they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, getting old does suck. Yes, James. How old are you, James? James, you want to come on? I don't even know who James is.
Yeah. Yeah. No
We
kidding.
need
though.
guests. I was on. Actually, I did try to recruit a few of Figueredo's friends from the Zoom chat to be guests, but I haven't
Yeah.
heard back from any of them.
Speaking of which, yeah, I'm actually a lot more like I'm really curious about that. Like, what all, like,
First Friday of every month, he does a Zoom call with his not subscribers, his what's it
Members.
called? Yeah, members.
Okay. So like, so you were on a Zoom call with him and like multiple other
Yeah,
subscribers?
yeah. He went for a
Okay.
while too because I didn't. He sent the email out at like 3:30,
Okay.
and I didn't notice it until like 30 that night or 7:30 that night, and they were still on when I signed in. So he's a good dude. It was kind of cool to get the tail end of the stream because I got some. I think the crowd had thinned out.
That's really damn cool.
Um,
I'm glad you guys
yeah.
with him.
Yeah, I think Mike would make for a great press secretary for like a politician, for like
Yeah.
a governor, or president, or somebody. I think he'd
Absolutely.
make for a great press secretary because he could be very dispassionate and he's obviously very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And nothing ever seems to phase him. He's very like emotionally in control.
For
Whereas,
real.
I'm prone to get pissed off. But I hope people
Right.
understand that when I get pissed off, it's for a purpose. It's because I want you to see that I really do believe this. I
Yeah.
really do, feel this way, and I feel this way because I've thought it through.
Yeah.
Most
kidding.
people when they're getting pissed off in an argument, it's because they're losing the argument. For me, I'm trying to drive the points home and create retention.
Yeah.
Because if the audience doesn't retain any of the information, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. It's always something that like for me, like it's always something I'm passionate about. It's always something like I know where I stand and I know like the actual correct position on this, that, or the other. And then when I hear it just like misrepresented or framed in a dishonest way, or it is if it's being explained with just such ignorance of the subject or whatever, and like they know that they're ignorant, like that's like the most frustrating things. It's because it's like you know that you're full of shit, you know that you're misinforming your audience, you know that you're like not the right messenger on this, that, or the other, and you don't care. Like you want to frame things so that way it misinforms your audience. You want them to be you want them to be biased in the same way that you are, and I don't respect that in the slightest. Like that stuff like really fucking pisses me off.
Yeah, it pisses me off too. But that's like, what are you gonna do? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff is just it's not the way it should be, but it's the way it is.
Yeah.
And
Dishonesty.
I was thinking about like, so let's take this college protest issue and use my third Dieter 3 to evaluate it. Okay, now in case you don't know, the third Dieter 3 is the 3 stages of influence. Thank you, sweetheart. Attention, point of view, point. Okay? So, like, in my episode where I define this Dieter 3, or I should have called him Dieter trichotomy, because trichotomy is such a sweet word.
Yeah.
But you grab your attention with some sort of, like, violent story about an immigrant committing crime somewhere. Okay? In this case, it's violent protests. So they're grabbing the protests. They're grabbing your attention with the story of the violent protest, not the peaceful protest, not the boring protest, the violent protest.
Yeah.
And you see the cops in the uniforms and the tasers and the zip line, what do they call them? The zip ties that are instead of handcuffs, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Zip
And
ties.
now it's always easier to figure out the point, and the mystery is the point of view. So they're grabbing your attention with the violent protest. The point they're trying to make with this outside agitators is that the protesters are being manipulated. That the protesters are not actually protesting because they know what they're talking about. They're protesting because these outside agitators have come in, manipulated them because they're so easily manipulated because they're just kids who don't know anything, right? Now you get into the point of view. What's the point of view that they're using to tell this story? Parent-child.
Oh yeah.
They're making, the audience is the parent. Like, oh, my stupid kids who don't know anything. This like parental condescension that's
real.
left over from the baby boomer generation. You don't know shit because you're not my age, because you haven't been what I've been through. Well, what the hell have you been through?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Baby boomers. What have you really been through? I mean, Vietnam was a tough one. That was a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even
it's
close
just,
to World War
it's
II.
just, like an overall insult to intelligence. It's like, are you like, people really aren't that stupid. It does it like, especially if you're like, for one, you'd have to, like, if you're making the claim that there are outside agitators involved, it would have to just be like this huge network of influence, because these protests are being assembled online. There's probably like a campus website or like a group page or a group chat or something, or rather, and it's all being conveyed there. Like, unless you're saying that you have proof that, like, this is all happening because some sort of outside entity is coming in and making everybody think that they should be protesting for what, anti-Semitic reasons. Then like, yeah, please present that fucking evidence, because I won't hold my breath, because like no such fucking thing exists. It's like it's pretty universal that most people are just against war. That might be you might want to start there. Like, like just the sheer dishonesty is insane.
Mom would not let me join an ex-Navy intelligence officer and a dad, I think he meant purple beret,
Really?
that was in Nam with an entire family service. Wow. I felt less than for a long time, but that's my mom. Yeah, man, there you go. Dieter dichotomy number 4, wants versus shoulds, also known as desires versus expectations. According to the tradition of the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, expectations, obligations, shoulds, as the colloquial, are more important than wants, desires, passions, what you actually want to do with your life. It's not a matter of what you want. It's a matter of what your class, your culture, your tribe is to the country, really.
It is what, like, more so what you should be doing. Like, Bo of the Fifth Column, the channel I watch all the time, like, his main thing, like, he has a tagline. What's one of his taglines, I guess you could say? I forget the exact origin, but it's called Rule 303, and it goes as such: if you have the means, you have the responsibility. Meaning, if you have the means at your disposal to make change, you have the responsibility to act with said means.
Yeah, I dig that. I think it's kind of, if you want to talk about American exceptionalism, then there you go.
Yeah.
If you have the means to execute change, then you should feel obligated to execute change. That's what I feel.
Yeah,
I've got
same.
some extra. I've got extra time and a little bit of extra money, very little bit of extra money, and then, and I've got this time on my hands to do this show, and so this is how I'm trying to add value to. I hope I get more popular and I hope I become more influential. Obviously, who doesn't want to become more influential?
Of course.
But, I mean, I'm not going to like go down and put canned goods in a box at your local pantry. That's not how I'm going to add value. I think I have a above average understanding of political marketing. And that's one thing I did emphasize a lot in my Zoom call with Figueredo and his friends, or his followers, I should say, was there's policy, politics, and political marketing. And political marketing is what we really need to get better at on the left. And that's when you do simple questions like, when you think California, do you think tough? When you think the left, not just progressivism, but when you think the left, do you think winners? And the answers to both of those questions is obviously no.
Yeah.
The thing about California that is absolutely true, and this is another thing I talked with Mike about, is that stereotypes exist for a reason. California is its own universe. It is its own country. People here are so oblivious to what's going on outside of California. Everybody they know is either from California or living in California. And they can go skiing in California. They can go surfing in California. They can go from Hollywood to Silicon Valley within a 45-minute flight. It's its own country. And you talk to conservatives, there's a lot of anti-Trump conservatives, but they vote for him anyway because they don't see the they don't see the Confederate flag. There's not a lot of that. That's in some places like Fresno and Bakersfield. I think you run into that a little bit, but it's not, and maybe where you are, but it's not like that prolific as, say, even in a place like Michigan, where it was everywhere during those protests for Whitmer. So, it's California. I told him, I said, if we can what if we had a strategy that was like, let's progressivize California and let's nail California and have that be the example for the rest of the country. And because you can get overflow votes here, meaning you can have Republicans can vote in Democratic primaries. So you can get anti-Trump conservatives to vote for you if you're the kind of progressive that an anti-Trump conservative might be willing to trust. And I think in California, you've got some anti-Trump conservatives that are willing to get past it. You just got to get them past this ridiculous oversimplification that government is the problem. Okay? It is not one single problem. We live in a sophisticated, complex, global economic system.
Yes.
Do not oversimplify it by saying one thing is or is not the problem. If you want to single out anything, it is our blind faith in the for-profit motive to produce the best possible result. That is the problem. That would be if somebody had a gun to my head, so you get to put it together one sentence, and then I'm gonna blow your head off, and everybody in the world gets to hear it, that would be it. We have blind faith in the for-profit motive to produce high-quality results. Yeah, James Fox, greed is good. Yeah, baby. So many people watch that movie, man, Wall Street. There it is. And they think he's a good guy. They think Gordon Gekko's the good guy.
Right. Yeah, he's also in my chat. He says, oh, well, I was just about to say that. Yeah, he said that in my chat as well. It's our duty to make this life better for those left behind, and I completely agree.
The principle of Confucianism is that virtue comes from a sense of obligation to those who have passed away, the dead.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the motto of my high school was "The dead teach the living."
Yeah.
Which means that the purpose of education isn't really for you. The purpose of the education is so that future generations will have your knowledge to improve society.
Yeah, it should be about, learn from our mistakes rather than keep it the way that we had it, it should be...
But you have to acknowledge that they were mistakes made in the first place, and we don't really want to do that because we're a teenager.
Of course, yeah, it's like, just because they are ancestors or founding figures or whatever. Like, it doesn't mean that they had everything correct. Like, it like, we could easily build upon the ideas that they had because they didn't have everything correct, like, to begin with, you know? And like, deify them, I guess you could say, is foolish.
It's also not what they would want. Like that the framers didn't want us to worship them. They didn't want that. They were just intellectuals. They understood this premise of the dead teach the living. By the way, that motto, okay, for that high school predates the, founders by about 130 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a tradition of English education, was that your life is mortal, but your knowledge can be immortal.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, people are so envious of actors and actresses because they're immortalized visually, but intellectuals are immortalized with the text, with what they've written.
Yeah.
And that's actually a higher intellectual contribution than the visual, like being the actor and actress. Like, that's just kind of lucky. Like, in that, yes, it's talent and stuff, and it should be celebrated, and people should be paid well. I don't think it's, it's a little excessive, but but really the genius of storytelling is the writing and directing. Visual storytelling.
Yeah,
that's what the
agree.
genius.
I love me a good story. Like, if you can get me going, like just fully invested, like if you can tell a good story, I am hooked right in. like I completely agree. James says, "We are here to teach that which we will never meet."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
I have 6 people watching.
Yes,
This is crazy.
you watch. He? I don't know if he's in both. He might be in both of our channels.
He's jumping them back and forth. I believe he might even have 2 tabs open. But
that's funny.
Hello to the 6 watchers. If you're watching and you're not subscribed yet, make sure you please subscribe. This is Left Coast Live. We do this try to do every Monday, maybe every Wednesday and Tuesday as well. Usually around 6 or 7 Pacific Standard Time, maybe a little bit later. It would mean a whole lot. We've been talking about the campus crackdowns recently, the hypocrisy of the media and boomers in general, and just the dishonesty of media, as well as, I mean, it's a common theme on this channel. That's for sure. We're always talking about just the way that things are framed, just being dishonest, and like what the left could do better to market itself a lot better. Like, political marketing is a big thing that we believe in, and if like we're going to pursue and push progressive causes, that's a big thing we believe in.
Oh man, I've got a high of 5 viewers right now. What's going on? Welcome. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
No, seriously though, political marketing I think is an important thing, a term that should be introduced to public discourse, because I don't think the left thinks about that. And I think one of the things that marketers do well is acknowledge the limitations, which is a rule of creativity, by the way. Limitations are creativity's best friend. So they acknowledge, like, what is the consumer behavior? What are their wants, wishes, and needs?
Exactly.
And it's always convenience. Like, convenience drives consumer behavior. What drives voter behavior? Whether or not they care. Whether or not they know enough to care. So you've really got to reduce things down to creative communication.
Yes.
And people think that creativity is this vast landscape. You just go around and do whatever you want. No. There's a goal. There's a framework that you have to adhere to. And the framework that the left doesn't want to accept is that modern day politics in America is a professional sport.
Yeah.
That is the competitive culture that you're dealing with. And if you don't accept that, then you don't see it for what it is.
Not to mention, like, voters and non-voters alike aren't always going to be convinced that, like, the issues that are prominent or not, or the issues that are the most consequential, I guess you could say, are is convincing them that they will be affected by them, and that they will have, like, an actual impact on their lives. Because a lot of people aren't really convinced. Like, it does take a lot of explaining, convincing, like, hey, if this or that legislation gets passed, or if this person becomes president, that means, like, further control of the Supreme Court, and, like, certain legislation will get passed. this will get worse, that'll get worse, and it's all about just looking at the potential risks when it comes to who gets to exercise and wield power, and like just getting people to understand that can go a long way. Like it's, I mean, hell, that's why like a lot of progressives in 2020 were able to get a lot of non-voters actually involved and registered to vote, and that's what gave a lot of swing states to Biden.
Yeah. Well, we needed an heir apparent from Bernie. Bernie needed to anoint someone, and someone else needed to step up. And we've had a lot of swings and misses. I mean, I got my issues with AOC, but I still like her. I know she's not perfect. She definitely hasn't been on point enough with unions. Definitely acknowledge that for sure.
Right.
I also just don't think she's executive material. I think she's good for the House, maybe the Senate someday, but I don't see her in the White House. I really don't. I don't think she's talented enough. Sorry. I think she's beautiful, but I don't think she's smart enough to be president.
Maybe a couple of decades down the line, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, good point. She could, through experience, become a real veteran, you know, so yeah, exactly, like 3 or 4 cycles from now, like, or
Sure.
even just two or three.
Sure.
In thinking of them in 4-year cycles, I should say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Be-
it's possible.
because yeah, but yeah, no, there should be a new heir apparent from Bernie, and I just don't see anyone on the left. There's some union people that they referred to in Mike's chat that I thought were, Jasmine Crockett, yeah, that's the one from
Hey,
Texas. Let me see. Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, well, right on cue.
Jasmine Crockett.
Like gave you exactly
right.
the name you were looking for too, huh?
Yep.
I like
Imagine
that.
that.
I like that. The UAW union leader, I think his name's Seth or Scott or something like that. I forget.
Uh-huh.
I forget his name exactly, but he's killing it. Like every time he goes on TV, like every time he gives a speech, it's fiery.
Who-
Like
Who are you talking about?
The head of the UAW union, I believe.
Seth Goldstein?
Maybe.
No, Seth Harris. Seth Harris. No, wait.
No. Is it
UAW.
United Auto Workers? I thought
Seth.
it was.
He's a union boss.
Yes.
It's Seth Harris, isn't it?
Is it? I think
God, we look like idiots
I think
now.
it is. I think let's see. Let me actually
Seth
get
Harris.
a picture of him. Who is that? Sean Fain.
Sean Fain. Oh, yeah,
Sean
that's what they
Fain.
kept talking about.
Yeah.
They talked about Sean Fain.
Yeah, Sean Fain's awesome. Yeah, I really like what he's been doing. He's fiery. Like if it, I think he down the line, because we're talking like post Biden's second term. Hopefully that instead of Trump first term, that's a whole other conversation. They are actually set on what is basically like the closest thing to a general strike that this country will ever see come spring 2028. And that's an election cycle right there, because that's when I think it's the big three of the the big automakers or whatever. All their contracts are set for renewal around that time or something like that, and that's gonna be really big because that's never happened before. Because usually, like it's a different cycle. Like for different auto companies that are unionized with the UAW. Their contracts are usually set for renewal at different times. But with this recent negotiation, I believe they set it up to where they are set for renegotiation at the exact same time in spring 2028. So that's going to be very, very interesting. And if they don't get everything that they want, if they're not satisfied, that could lead to perhaps like the biggest strike this country has ever seen.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I'm kind of
Spring of 2023.
it's
Spring
like-
of when?
2028. I mean,
that's
that's
a
the
long
gist
time.
of it, but I'm not 100% clear on the specifics.
All right. Well, you gotta do some research on that one. I don't want to know more about it. North America Automotive Composite Leaf Springs. Anyway.
That might be it. Yeah.
So, yeah, Jasmine Crockett. Oh, yeah. Do we want to give Jasmine Crockett some love real quick?
Yeah. Who is that? I don't think I've heard that name before.
You don't know who Jasmine Crockett is?
I don't believe so.
Okay, here she is. Hello, Miss Crockett.
Okay.
You sure are cute.
Texas Democrat.
Yep.
Oh, she's a congresswoman?
Uh-huh.
Oh, like actually serving. Why have I not heard of her?
Oh, shit. Some white privilege be going down.
What?
Oh, let's talk some white privilege with Jasmine Crockett. Yes. Talk to me. Oh, please.
What we got? What we got?
Okay, all right. So we love the Constitution today, and we also want to talk about foreign money coming in. Have y'all
Okay.
seen the report that was just produced where this chairman decided that he was going to block this committee from receiving additional information about y'all's guy Trump and all the money that he took?
I
From
love it.
what we did receive, we know
Very
that Trump
Texas.
got almost $6 million that we can account for, and we know that that's more, that there's more there from China specifically. We found almost $8 million total that he accepted from foreign governments while he was serving as the president of these United States. But we're concerned about the president's son who has not been involved in his administration. I just want to run it back, though, to the very beginning, because this is something that I just can't get over. I can't get over the gentle lady from South Carolina talking about white privilege. It was a spit in the face, at least of mine as a black woman, for you to talk about what white privilege looks like, especially from that side of the aisle. And let me quote your now ousted speaker and what he had to say about the Republican Party and y'all's lack of diversity. When you look at the Democrats, they actually look like America. When I look at my party, we look like the most restrictive country club in America. So let me tell you something. Y'all don't know what white privilege looks like, but I'm gonna show you a little bit of something. You see, you want to talk about a two-tier justice system, and this is the only time that y'all have ever referenced it, when this country has a history when it comes to black and brown folk of having two separate sets of rules. And right now what you want to do is have two separate sets of rules because Mr. Moskowitz offered y'all a fair situation. He said he would vote for Hunter to be held in contempt if y'all voted to hold all, even if you remove all of the members of Congress. There's still other people that y'all haven't decided that y'all have excuses for, but y'all don't want to hold them in contempt. But for some reason, it makes sense to hold Hunter Biden in contempt, who has tried to comply. And let me tell you why nobody wants to talk to y'all behind closed doors, because y'all lie. That's just the bottom line. You have done it thus far in this investigation. You have done it this far as it relates to this committee. In every single hearing, y'all spin, spin, spin. I don't know how y'all are still standing right now, because you should be quite dizzy from all the spinning that you're constantly doing when it comes to spinning the truth. You talk about free and fair elections, but you back a guy who we know tried to steal the election. And this isn't about what Democrats have to say. Let me remind you, for those of you that don't know how the justice system works, it's not a matter of the president went in and indicted Trump, but we are talking about grand juries. Grand juries are comprised of American citizens, and the people that have entered pleas of guilty that will be flipping on your leader in a minute, they are Republicans. I do want to point that out. And half of them were Republicans that were handpicked by Donald Trump himself. So, to be clear, whatever happens to your little leader, it's going to be because of the actions that he took. So you can talk all you want to about how January 6th was nonsense, but all of y'all were running at that time. Y'all were grabbing y'all's gas masks, and y'all were running to your offices because you didn't know if they were coming to kill you. You should have cared that somebody was there to protect you, but instead you want to play games because you found out that it was your leader that decided that he wanted to propagate an insurrection on our country. So don't tell me that you care about the Constitution, because you don't. All you care about is Trump getting reelected, and I'll yield the last of my time.
She's fucking awesome. What the fuck? So she is she's in the House of Representatives. She's not like
She's from Dallas.
Wow. I was just there. Dallas is fucking awesome. Dallas, you got a good representative in your little in your
They have
district.
quite a few. I think they have a couple districts.
Yeah, of course. It's a big area, Dallas. That's this is my first time seeing her, hearing her. That was fiery. Like she fucking nailed them to the wall. Like yeah, you obfuscate and you waste all this time talking about Hunter Biden when there's nothing there. I mean, let alone trying to impeach Biden and then having to admit that there's nothing to impeach him over, and just calling out their hypocrisy. I love it. Fearless, succinct, to the point, and just impassioned. That is exactly what we fucking need. All of that right there. That was awesome.
Also absent of verbal pauses on a performance note.
Yeah, no, she was like just clear and succinct and to the point and knew exactly what she was saying, how to say it, how to lobby it against them, because she's pissed. You can tell she's pissed. Like she's been holding all this shit in for all this time, and like she had her chance and lobbied it at everybody there, like just brilliantly. Yeah, that was
All
great.
right, so she's a little bit older than I thought. She was born in '81, so she's 43.
That's still young.
100th. I don't know where her map is. Where she go to school? University of Houston Law Center. Got her JD there. And graduated Rhodes College. Interesting. Oh, yeah, she's cool.
Yeah,
She's fiery.
More of that,
She's
please.
very,
How long has she been in there? Do you know?
Let me see.
When was she elected?
I just had it a minute ago. Assumed office January 3rd, 2023. So she's
really? So she was
baby, yeah. She's a newborn.
so she took office during the
yeah, this is her first term.
non-existent red wave in the midterms. Interesting. Interesting. Welcome to Congress. You got a bright future ahead of you.
Crockett also received extensive financial support from super PACs aligned with the cryptocurrency industry, with Sam Bankman-Fried's Protect Our Future PAC giving $1 million in support of her campaign.
Interesting.
Okay. Let's not get our hopes up.
Well, I mean,
she might be from Central Casting. We're not sure yet.
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, nobody gets in her ear and she's not completely bought. I mean, we'll be able to find out on OpenSecrets.org. Oh, she's a lawyer. Interesting. Okay.
She beat out Jane Hope Hamilton first.
Really?
Okay. Cool.
Interesting. Yeah,
no, I like her a lot. I think we need more of the fire. More of the fire. I just don't think very many people can do that. And are willing to. She doesn't maybe do it enough. I don't know. I think the squad really was like, at first, maybe a good idea, and they tried, but they didn't end up voting together. So as soon as they stopped voting together, they had no credibility, and nobody really took them seriously. And the idea that 4 people just because they're people of color, like, no, it shouldn't be like that. Come on.
Yeah.
No, it should be like a coalition. And by the way, four isn't even close to enough. What are you doing? You're trying to start a revolution with 4 people in the house? Come on.
Yeah, and they did. The squad did get expanded when.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Jamal Bowman was elected as well. But yeah, no, like that kind of solidarity is important after all, and you know, like everybody takes exposure differently. I guess that I'm sure that plays a role in it as well. And I mean, ultimately, what it comes down to is being principled, making sure that you like the money you take is from smaller donations. I mean, Sam Bankman-Fried, I think he bankrolled like a whole bunch of different campaigns, and then he like went under. Like he's actually in jail now, I think. But OpenSecrets.org would reveal a lot more information about that. Like it shows what donations certain candidates take, and what donations they receive, basically who owns them. You know, the contributions they get.
Well, I think that's about it from me as far as all the energy I got for today. You got anything else you want to talk about?
That's pretty much it.
We talked about the boomers, informed college Judaism over Zionism. Yeah, we talked about all that shit.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, this was a fiery little stream, and I enjoyed it. I nothing off the top of my head comes to mind for me, at least right now.
All right, well, for Stateless Patriot, I am Dieter McBusiness, and we are reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
Thanks to all
Please
you.
tell your friends to watch.
Yeah, thanks for joining in. I got a few more of you watching. Thanks to James. Thanks to Thunderbird and whoever else joined in. We will see you guys. Hopefully, it should be according to plan. See you Wednesday.
All right, talk then.